My people, good afternoon to everybody. You're welcome to another session of our Azure study series. This weekend is Ladies' Weekend. Yay for the ladies! My name is Olateju. Once again, you guys are welcome. Today we'll be talking about Azure storage, and I can promise you, beyond anything else, I can promise you that it is going to be an exciting session, exciting session. Okay, so please sit back. Our speaker for today is Oluwadamilola. She's an information technology professional, and she has experience implementing business applications, managing and deploying infrastructures on the cloud and on Microsoft 365. She currently works as a technical project lead on an infrastructure as a service team in A-Frame IT. And she, so without wasting too much of your time, let me welcome Damilola. Oluwadamilola.
Hi, Olateju. Thank you for the welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here and to take this series today. And the topic for today,
Oluwadamilola.
can you hear me? Hello. Hi. Okay. Okay.
Also, let me mention that if you have any questions or, whatever your opinions are, please do not hesitate to drop them in the comment box. I will be definitely conveying them to the speaker before the end of the session. And whatever question you have. Hello, Oluwadamilola. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the welcome, Olateju. Thank you so much. All right. Today's teaching series is uploading data to your Azure storage. Use the Azure Storage Explorer, and we'll get right into it. But first, before we start, I would like to say that if you have not watched this session for Azure Storage, I think it was last 2 weeks by Mr. Promise, please do so because it's like a prerequisite to this. Today we're treating how to upload data using your Azure Storage Explorer. But to understand how your Azure storage works, you should have seen that video to learn about the storage. So if you have not, please go back to that video. It's on the YouTube channel. Just search for Azure Storage. You should find it and watch it. All right, so I'll get right into it. I'll be sharing my screen. Okay. All right. So what's the Azure Storage Explorer, right? So the Azure Storage Explorer is a GUI version or option rather that allows you to upload, download, and manage the Azure storage. So for Azure, we have different options to upload or manage your data, but the Azure Storage Explorer is GUI. It means that you can interface with buttons, icons, and you can use that to manage your data. So we have the Azure CLI. If you're familiar with the Azure CLI, you can see it on the Azure. You can also use that to manage data on for Azure storage. You have the Azure PowerShell. That's also an option that works. And you have the AZ copy. Oh, but all of these options are scripting. So if you are not so familiar with scripting and you really don't like scripting. I mean, I guess most people don't really like scripting. We just like to, click, click, click. Then this is the option that works for you and it's faster. So why should you consider it? It's faster. It makes it easy to access all your storage accounts across different subscription. You can work on premises or offline. So that means that even when you have internet or you don't have internet, you can actually work with the Azure Storage Explorer, and we'll try to look at how that works. We have local emulators that you can work with. It's also something that you can So we try to customize a bit of this as we go on in the classes. And lastly, it allows you to give access based on permission or permission you want people to have. So okay. All right. If you can still see my screen, I'll be going ahead. So the next slide is installing your storage, installing your Azure storage, and you can install it on your Windows 7, 8, 10, 11. You can also try it on the Mac. So if you have a Mac and you think that it's not going to work because it's a Microsoft product, trust me, it's going to work. Although I've not installed it on the Mac before, but there's a version for the Mac. And then we have the Linux version too. So if you have a Linux system, you can also work with that. Okay, so we're getting to the main part of the course, and working, I hope you can see my screen because I'll be switching to the Azure Storage Explorer. Let me just start it up. So once you install your Azure, okay, let me just be sure that you can see that. Mm, okay. Mm, okay, so I don't know, right now I'm sharing the Azure Storage Explorer screen. And this is what it looks like when you install it. So we have tabs, and this is just what it looks like, right? And so we can from here start connecting our storage account. If on the PowerPoint, I said that there are different ways you can connect. You can connect using your rather you can connect to your individual resource, and you can connect to a subscription. Now a subscription in Azure is like a logical container that you provision resources through. So if you're connecting using your Azure subscription, it means that you'll be pulling all of the storage accounts that's linked to that subscription. And so that means you can, if you have like 5 storage accounts there, you would obviously pull that to your system. And I think one of the things, if you remember, we said is when you're using the Storage Explorer, it allows you to manage your security access level to your storage account. So if, for example, you don't want somebody to have access to all of the storage accounts in a subscription, then using this option is not the best for you, because there are other options that allow you give permission to just access maybe a blob container, a file share, a queue, or a table. So um, I'm going to show us how we connect to the Azure AD subscription. Okay, so this is our interface, and you just right click on your storage accounts from here, and you can do connect to Azure storage. And then from there, you can click on subscriptions, go next. It's easy. You can follow the prompt, next, and then it takes you to your browser where you can now connect to. So if once you're on the browser, I just want to share the entire screen so we can all see that. Okay, so for my browser here, I can connect, and then once I come back to my Azure Storage Explorer, you can see it's waiting for the authentication. Once the authentication happens, the storage accounts that I have in my Azure would be attached to the Azure Storage Explorer. So we just wait for this to happen. But while we're waiting, we can go to my Azure, and I'll show you all of the Azure storage accounts that I have. So once it attaches, you see it. So you can see I have two. So I'm coming back here. It's connected now. And okay, so another thing you will notice if you're looking at this, you can see that all of the organizations, or as you can say, all of the directories that I belong to, now I belong to different organizations, they all show up here. So if the subscription, or maybe the storage account I want to reach is under this, I can always just click this. But this is what I'm going with anyways, the first one, which is my home tenant. So I'm just going to check this, and then you can click on Open Explorer. And so once we open the Explorer and we drop this down, you would see all of my storage accounts, and from here we can manage this. So you can see, and it also pulls down the disks, manage disks in Azure. So you can see if I drop this down, you can see the blob containers, the file shares, queues, and tables. These are the Azure storage services that we have, and from here I can manage it. Right, so I'm going to detach this. You can detach by right clicking, and then, okay, sorry, not from here. If I go back to my accounts here, that's this icon here, I can do remove, and then I would just say yes. So that's gone, and back to Explorer. Now that's for subscription based. Now if we want to do individual resource, so that means that I want to access just a storage account, or I want to access just a file share, just one, or I want to access all of the file shares in my Azure storage, because like when we did the subscription, it pulled down everything so you can access all of the services under the subscription and storage account. But in this case, maybe I just want to give access to just the file, all of the file shares I have, or all of the blob containers I have, or all of the queues and tables I have. Then I can work with this option. So let's go back to our Azure Storage Explorer, and then we'll try to attach based on, so we're going to do storage account first. And now there are three options you can use. You can use the connection string, you can use your SAS, your shared access signature, and you can use your account name and key. So I'll be showing us how we can generate these three things from the Azure portal. So I'm going back to my Azure portal. All right, and I'll be using the dummy storage account. So when we go to security and networking here under this place, we can see that we have the access key, we have the shared access signature, which we'll be starting with first. Now, using this shared access signature, you can give different levels of permission based on what you want the person to have. Remember, this is principle of least privilege. So you're just giving permission to what you want people to have. If it's just the blob containers, then just to do just that. So for example, for this, we'll be starting with just um, let's say only file shares in this account, and then I give the kind of resource I want, and maybe the level of permission. So maybe I just want the person to read and list, but not to write or delete or even create a file share. So I can do this. And then good thing about your permission is you can also select the start and expiry dates, right? So you can say, oh, from this time, sorry about that, I live in the plane route, so you might get plane sound. Okay, so you can say start date is today, which is 3 o'clock or 3:18, and end date, well, still today, 11 p.m. So also you can select allowed IP addresses. So if I don't want just anybody to be able to access my storage account from just anywhere, then I can do this. I can say, okay, these are the IP addresses that can access it. So whoever is in this range of IP would be able to access that storage account using the SAS access signature that I'll be sharing. Protocols, HTTPS is very secure, so it's recommended that you use HTTPS always, unless otherwise you have a reason why you need to use HTTP, then you can select this. But security wise, it's recommended that you use your HTTPS protocol, right? And this is basic. I think this is grayed out because my subscription is not like at that level. All right, so we have selected all our options, and I'll generate my SAS and connection string. Now, if I want to use my connection string in this case, you see that a connection string contains all of the URLs for each of these services. If you look through it, I'm going to copy it here. So I'm going to start with the connection string. If you look through it, I have all of the services that's there, and it gives me an error because if you remember on the permission, what I selected was just file. I just selected file. So if I want this error to disappear, I'm going to have to remove all of these ones that I did not give permission to and just leave only the URL for the file. So I'm just going to do this and remove table as well, leaving only the SAS. Okay, so we have the error disappeared. So you can see all we have left is the file URL, which is all the way to here. And this is the SAS URI. Sorry, just did the rubbish. Okay, this is the SAS URI token. So both of them, your URL for your file service and your SAS token, URI token, is what makes up your SAS URL. Sorry, your file service SAS URL. Yeah. So once I do next, I'm able to connect all of the file shares that I have in my storage account. So it's going to load and then right. So you can see it red file share, RGB file share. So I've just given access to only file shares. Now, if we want, we can do the same thing I did for the blob, for the queue, for your table. You can just replicate the same exact thing for each of them. Now, if we go back to the Azure storage, sorry, Azure portal, go back to portal here, and I copy the connection string. Now, this time around, I want us to have access to everything. So I'm just selecting, give all of the permissions, and I need to generate a new SAS connection, of course. But you see, it has changed. We have different URL, sorry, for each of this. So you see, like this, like this, like this, like this. So I'm going to copy the blob endpoint, the connection string, because that's what we want to use to connect, right? So we're going to connect everything this time around. So I'm going to this. It's quite easy to detach if you are doing. So if you remember when we did for the subscription, we had to remove the account. But when you're connecting using your SAS or connection string, you can detach easily. Yes. And then you can just come back again to storage account, connect to Azure storage, and then we can select, okay, storage account, connection string next. So I'm putting everything in this time around, and it's going to connect me to just that storage account. Remember, we are doing it individually now. So I'm connecting to only the damage storage account. So I'm doing connect, and then everything under that storage account just comes up. So this is it, the blob container, the file shares. I think I have table, or is it a queue? Okay, I don't have anything there. So I don't know if I have anything here right now. No, nothing. So, but you can see all of them here. And then from here, we can do some managing if we need to. So we'll get to the managing phase later. Now, we're going to go back to still having our connecting to Azure storage. So I want to show us how to do it for individual blob containers. Like if you go back to my Azure portal, you can see that under my storage account here, sorry. Okay, we're going under file shares. Okay, let's go to container here. Mm, okay, so under container we have the AZ container, the blue container, and then I just want to connect only this container, or maybe only the blue containers, or maybe I just want to even give a colleague access to just this container so the person can connect it to their Azure Storage Explorer and upload information to it. Maybe we're building like a website, we're trying to upload stuffs to the or pictures for the website to a blob. You could just say, okay, this is my SAS here. I just generate the SAS URL token, and then I copy. Okay, now here there's no policy, but you can give your permissions, which is pertinent depending on what you want the person to do. Now, in this case, I'm saying that, okay, I want this person to be able to upload files into the container. So obviously, I want the person to be able to maybe write, maybe just write, maybe delete. Well, maybe delete, yes, and list, which is important because she needs to be able to list out everything that's in the container. So if I don't want the person to be able to do other things, I would not. I just leave it. But let's, for the sake of managing the blob later, let's just give all the permissions. So we have I'll explain again that you can put in if you want to. You're allowed IP address and your HTTP token. So we just generate the SAS token here. If you look at this, you can see that this is the token. The token will not work. If I copy this now and paste here, it's not going to work without the URL for the blob. So it tells you the URL is missing a protocol. So well, if I come back to this and I copy the SAS URL, you'll see that it's the combination of both your storage account URL. So if you come here, you can see this is the URL for my container and then the SAS token. So the combination is what makes your URL for any of the services, whether your file share or your queue or your table, whichever one you're using. You can always create your SAS URL using the combination of the two. So I click next and connect, and so you can see it connected here. Now this is like a container that I had it yesterday. So once the expiry date is complete, you can't access information again. It just becomes blank, right? So I can remove this now because the expiry date is gone, and obviously it's not useful to whoever it is again. So while we are on this interface, you can see the activities here, and sometimes you can also, it shows you like if I do something, let's see if I can copy blob container and I can paste. Okay, I don't know, I can paste here. Wait, I can paste here. I'm trying to see. Yeah, copy, and then I come here and paste. Okay, so that's still loading. So, but on the activities, you can see all of the activities that's happening here. You can see the transfer rate. If there's an error, it shows here. You see the color red, so it gives information. Now at this side here, you can see copy AZ copy command. So like I said at the beginning of the class, the AZ copy command is a scripting option to manage your Azure storage. So if you want to maybe start copying some of the commands here and storing it on your notepad for future purpose, you can also do that. I mean, it could also help. This is easy though, but sometimes you might actually need the AZ copy, especially if you are a developer or you have something you're developing, you might actually need that. Right. So that's that for individual. So I'm going to do one more for file share because the file share does not give you the SAS URL token automatically. So that's why I will be doing that. Right. Okay. So sorry about that. Okay. Right. So I'm coming here. I'm doing properties and copying this. So I'm going to open my notepad and paste that here. So this is the URL for my file share. Now, if I copy the URL for my file share and try to attach, sorry, storage account, connect to Azure Storage, and do file share like this, I'm going to get an error because the SAS token is not there, right? So I have to come back to my storage account, Tami storage account, and then I can get the SAS token. I can get the SAS token from under security. So I just generate this. Let's just go. Okay, I just, well, that's by the way, anyways. What we just need is the SAS token. So I can come here. I'm not sure if there's some other way to generate the SAS token that you will need to combine, but because we just want to give permission to a file share, not the just one file share, not the entire one. That's why we are doing this. So you can see that the error has gone because I added the SAS token. Now, before we connect, let me just go back to our slide and show you what the SAS token comprises of. So if you look at the PowerPoint, you can see the URI parameters, and you can see that it consists of the file, the URL, sorry, URL, don't mind my R factor, the URL, the time that is starting, that's the access time, and the end time, right? So I'm just kind of mouse my mouse. Okay. Sorry. Can you imagine? Okay, I think my system is freezing. I don't know. Right. Okay, sorry, I'm having some issues with my mouse. I can't seem to find the pointer. Okay. Well, I don't know. Just give me some minutes. Let me try to fix this. Hmm, yeah. Finally. Okay, it's back. I don't know what happened. Somebody took over my system. And it's gone again. Gone again. Okay, I think it's gone again. All right. I think we're good again. Okay, it's back. All right. So, as I was saying, if you look at this, you can just analyze. We can break it down. So we analyze CCC there. All right. I already said that it contains the file URL, the start date, the end date, and the connection key. So you can see there. All right. So you can see the permissions, the IP range. If I added an IP range, that would be there, the protocol and signature. Right. So next we'll be going to how to manage blobs using the Azure storage account. So whatever you can do on the portal, you can also do from here. Can also do from here. So I can upload files from here or a folder. I'll just it's quite simple. So we just do that. You can just select your folder and upload. Let's see. Okay, just do this. Upload. All right, so you can see that it's uploading. If it fails, I'm going to get an error. You can also see the bandwidth, 1.5 Mbps, right? You can create a new folder from here and call it test folder. So all of these things, as you work on it, it's replicating on your on the cloud. That's on Azure, right? Um, what else? We can delete. So if I delete this here, it's going to get deleted on the cloud. So I probably don't want to do that. So I think I can actually delete from here. See, and you can also whatever the actions that are here, all of the actions listed here are also the same actions that you see when you right click, right? So sometimes later you can just play with it. There are a lot of things. Whatever you do on the Azure storage, I think you can do mostly here. There's some features that might not be supported, but most of it is supported. And some of the features that used to be there before, like getting your SaaS URL or managing permissions, has been taken from here, I guess, because it's better to manage permissions from the Azure portal than to do that from here. However, if I come to properties, I can see the URL here, and I can, of course, see the SaaS token, even though it's actually hidden, but I can see it. Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going back to my slide. Okay, copying a blob. So you can also do a clone. If you want to clone this, you can clone it and then give it a different name. Blue container clone, clone. So you clone and it also shows on your Azure like that. And so when I do a clone though, because I gave permission to all of the storage, like I got permission to the storage account. But if I did it under here, I probably will not see the clone because I don't have permission to it yet. Right. So I'm going to remove some of these attachments so that I don't get too confused. See, okay, it's coming. So we're detaching. All right. So the next thing we'll be looking at is your network connections in your Storage Explorer. Now, when you're using the Storage Explorer, it makes requests to various endpoints while in use. So I added the link here. I don't know if I can share it, but if you want to see most of the links, like if you're using a firewall or a web filter, for those that are in an organization and there's some sites that you block, or maybe you have to actually allow some traffic out, then you might need to go to this link to pick out the links that Azure Storage Explorer will make requests to, because if not, you will not be able to connect. You just be getting error. So if you're using a proxy, that's like a firewall, a web filter, you can set this up from here. So if you go to your settings, there are a whole lot of things you can do on the settings. But if you come to the proxy configuration here, for me by default, I said do not use proxy because I'm accessing the internet directly. There's nobody stopping me. It's my computer and my internet. But if you're in a company, of course, we know that these things happen. So you can use I'm going to start from here first. The system proxy would use your system configuration, right? So if you have configured your system to use the proxy, it's going to pull information from the operating system and use that. And if you're using an app proxy, then you have to set up all of these fields here. So you're going to put your protocol type, the proxy name. Of course, you're going to know that if you're using a proxy, what ports, right? And if there are some maybe URLs that you want Azure Storage Explorer to bypass when connecting to the web. Instead of going through the proxy, you can bypass them and just go, or bypass the proxy rather and go directly to those addresses. Then you can put those addresses here. And if you require a credential to connect, you can do that here. You can do it from the edit. So you put your edit and configure proxy, and then you can put your credential. I think there are actually sometimes that you might need to sign in if you're using a VPN or maybe a web filter. You might need to put in like a username and password to go in. So you can also configure that here, right? I think that's most of the networking for this, except for when we are doing data transfer, which we'll come to later. So I'm going back to the PowerPoint, and we'll be looking at the emulator, right? So I don't know if anybody has any questions at this point before I continue to the emulator. Any questions? Just going to check the YouTube. Okay, there are no questions. Coming back to my presentation. Okay, so what's the emulator like? Now, for the emulator, it's for developers though, but I just thought to trade in because it might be useful for somebody. So it's like you're creating your Azure storage on your local system, right? And even when I'm off the internet, I've gone off the internet for this practical, but if I do that, I will lose connection to you guys, so I can't. But I'm going to start the emulator and then we'll just see how it looks like. Now, Azure Storage Explorer supports Azure, right? That's the official emulator, but there are other ones that you can use. You just have to download it yourself and configure it. To set this up, I had to download my Visual Studio 2022. I don't know if it's going to work. I think it's going to work for other versions, but I know recommended on the article is 2022, and it has to be professional, not community. So when I was trying to set up mistake and I did community, and then I didn't see the Azure right. But once you download it with the professional, it comes with the professional. So I'm going to start it up. I'm just going to copy the path to it. Okay. So I'm going to go to my file explorer and I'm going to access this path. Right. So this is the application. You have to run it as administrator. Okay, before I start it, right, I'm just going to try to do a connection to my emulator. So if you come here, I'm going to close this. I'm going to come here and I think if you go to accounts from here, this is how we add it. Let's see. Okay, local storage emulator. So if I do this, look out, these are the connections. I'm probably gonna have to come back here, but hey, let's connect. So it's going to fail because I'm just telling my emulator. So open Explorer. So it's just loading, and then I'm most likely going to get an error message later that I'm trying to connect to an emulator that is not available. Right. So I just wanted to see how it looks like without. So you see, we're attempting to access an emulator storage account without running an emulator. So now I'm going to run the emulator. Okay, run as administrator, and then once I run, it starts to connect. So you can see from here, the blob service is started on this port. The file, queue, and table. I think these are the only three services that is supported by the emulator. You can confirm that on the website. So if I go back here now and try to connect again, I'm going to detach. Yep. And then I'm going to try and connect again. Same thing though. I can just come here, connect to Azure storage, local emulator. So this is the queue pot, table spot, and blob spot. And that's exactly what we have here. I'm going to go next and connect. So mostly this is not really for everybody. This is for development purposes. Just like we know that Azure is a very broad platform. So of course there are different people that use it. Apart from infrastructure, we have the data science guys that use it, and they also use this tool for their data. So if you look here, you can see the data lake storage generation one preview. This is mostly for data science guys, and also for developers that want to just test maybe the applications with storage accounts before connecting to the cloud. You can do everything right here instead of connecting the cloud immediately. So this is taking a while. We'll just wait for it to load. Um, okay, so I think while that's loading, I don't know how long it's going to take because it's supposed to be a local post. So I don't know why it's taking so long. Let me refresh. Okay, let's see. Oh, still loading. Okay, oh, just wait. I don't think it's timed out and it's still listening. All right, so I'm going back to my slide here. Okay, I think that's about it. So while we're waiting for this to load, if anybody has any questions, they can ask now. There's something that you want to see before we just look at the other settings in the Storage Explorer. Hi, Olateju, are there any questions or should I proceed? Hello, Olateju, are you there? Okay. So I think there's nothing. I'm just gonna come back here again and see if we have it. Maybe I need to detach or I should have refreshed right now. Just gonna refresh. Okay. So while that's loading, this is just a few. So Microsoft always likes to make things comfortable of your preference. So if you like bigger spaces, you can always toggle the sidebar. You can toggle it on again. You can put it back. If you want to take this out, the activities tab, just to have a whole lot of space, you can do that. So now that we have it, so if you look at it here, just like if you're familiar with OneDrive or I think even maybe Google Drive or so, you can always put the extensions that you trust. So you can also do the same thing for your storage. You can say, okay, these are the extensions that easily when anybody's uploading, you should trust it, right? Um, for your SAS duration, usually though, that's for your expiration date matters, right? Expiration date matters, but it says if your transfer fails to complete before the token expire, you can increase the value to give them more time. So, and then you can put your maximum transfer rate if you are like checking your internet. So you can also do that. So you can configure most of those things here for your transfer. If you have to do a data transfer configuration, you can do that from here. I don't know what's wrong with the emulator, but trust me. Um, so basically, if that was to start and I created the blob, my system is going to be like the local storage for that. So I tried some yesterday, and this is what it creates. So basically, it's like it's using your system as the storage to run. So you can create your blob, your queues, your tables from there. Wait. Okay, I'm just going to disconnect this detach. Hmm, okay, just try one more time. If not, mm, okay, that's it. It's still loading. So something is wrong. Unable to establish connection. All right. Let me change. Let me check my proxy. Maybe I changed something while I was. Um, okay. I'm just going to change this back to the noise proxy. Okay. So I think that's that. That. Let's refresh again. So I think that's the last for me on the slides using the emulator. If there are any questions regarding this, can let me know. All right, and also I mean, like when I signed in, I could use any of these options. So the settings allow you to configure the Azure Storage Explorer to what you like. If I had selected this and I tried to sign in, then the sign in box will show in this space here inside the application. It won't go to the browser. So depending on what you want, you can always do your configurations here and just works for you. Whatever works for you. Can make it your own and upload your data. So I think I'm done. If there are no questions, let's see if this is still loading. Okay, so that's still loading. Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Okay, so I don't know. Okay, hello, Tejo, are you there? Mm, okay, I'm done. So though can't hear you.
Yeah, I think Olatejo's microphone may be having an issue. So
Okay.
Olatejo, we can see that you're saying something, but we cannot hear you. So, but can you are you able to hear me? Oluwadamilola, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat window now. I can't see any questions like in the chat window, but maybe I'd have like a few questions before we round up for today's study session. So, is there any particular reason why I would want to prefer using like Azure Storage over doing some of the operations like in the Azure portal, in terms of maybe just performing maybe some of my day-to-day tasks, maybe as an administrator or as a developer. I'm not sure if that the question makes sense in terms of like any use cases that I should be looking out for if I'm looking to decide whether I should be using the portal for this or whether I should be using Azure Storage Explorer. Oh, I think we may have lost Udo Adamirola's connection also. So I can see Olateju, but we can't hear Olateju. And we can we, oh, we can hear you still, Olateju, yeah. So if you check your microphone and check that it's not on mute. So check that it's not on mute. So we could hear you at the beginning, but for some reason, we can't hear you anymore. Okay. So it does seem as if there's like some network and device issues that we have. Yeah. Well, it's been an amazing session, ladies and gentlemen. It's very, very useful session learning about Azure Storage Explorer and Azure Storage. Thanks very much to our amazing moderator, Olateju, and thanks very much to our amazing speaker, Oluwadamilola, for speaking at today's session. It's been awesome. So, Olateju, we can't hear you, but if you just give us a thumbs up, you've done an amazing job. So, well done. And thanks very much to Oluwadamilola also. So, ladies and gentlemen, until we see you again next week. So we'll have the event, set up for the next time, and do join the meetup group if you're yet to join the meetup group, so that you can be notified of upcoming events. So thanks very much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Have a lovely, lovely afternoon, evening, night, everyone.